morning, learners. Uh, this theme is New World Order and India under the uh, course which is the Design India and the World. You might have seen different videos and learnt a lot about the different themes of emergence of the New World Order and how does it impact India's foreign policy is a major component. So today we will be discussing about the meaning of the New World Order, which are the main actors of the New World Order, how is it going to impact India's relations with the other powers, and the future directions, probability of scenario which we will be locating under this lecture. As we all know that world order, when we talk about, there is a symmetry, there is a system, and there is a certain paradigm under which different countries work together. And if it is world order, then definitely there is a peace, means probability of war is ruled out. There would be definitely conflicts, but conflicts will be adequately managed by within the structure of the world order. And that is how we could see different stages of a world order during the Cold War and after the Cold War, and currently we are talking about the New World Order. So during the Cold War, there was a bipolar world. The two countries were leading the world. One was led by America, another was led by erstwhile Soviet Union, which we call Russia. And more or less it was based on the interest of ideology. So capitalist ideology was flagged off by America, and communist bloc was led by Soviet Union, erstwhile Soviet Union. That was the phase of Cold War from Second World War till 1990. But after the collapse of the Berlin Wall and declaration of the end of the Cold War, and a new phase started. And that was more or less New World Order during the Kuwait attack, Iraq attacked Kuwait, and in reply to Iraq attack, America attacked on Iraq, and that is how the American president has come out with an idea that New World Order begins from here. So that world order was unilateral. There was one country which was the most powerful, that was America. And that phase continued for almost 10 years or 15 years. But by the beginning of 21st century, things started changing. China was rising very rapidly. Russia was already in a very weak positions economically, militarily, and other. But again, under the Putin, it was emerging as a middle power. I mean, India also, through its economic policy, new economic policy and other, was emerging very rapidly. So there are many countries. There are many countries which have this economic as well as a military tits, which were not seen earlier. So they are also very important players. But it was talked about, it was explained time and again. Experts of the international politics believe that the center is changing. The epicenter of world politics is changing from Europe to Asia and from Europe to Asia. And players are also from Asia. It is not merely the game is changing, but the players are also changing. And when we talk about the changing of the players, then we find that China and India are the two largest countries in the world. And they play a very important role. But the problem lies here. China in the last few years has economically emerged as a superpower. overstepped almost America in most of the fields. Whether we take the example of African countries, Latin America, East Asia, wherever we find that the trade terms and expansion are more of the Chinese and the flair of American has to large extent synchronized. So that is how this question becomes more important. The New World Order, in which China is going to play a very important role, then what kind of this world would be? This is a matter to concern, matter of concern. But let's figure out which are the important players in the world order, new world order, when we are talking about of the 21st century. There is no doubt when you try to identify a country as a superpower, what major components that particular country needs to have. We cannot declare a country a superpower without any solid base. So there are four components which are very important to become a superpower. The number one is, there is no doubt about it, the most important factor of the world politics is economy. Economy drives the politics, and that is how we have seen the terms between two different countries, whether it is a trade conflict between China and America, India and China, despite being many political conflicts, but economy drives the politics, and that is why the minimum terms between the two countries continue. So it is a dictating terms. So the first component to be a superpower, you need to have economic strength where you can expand, and most of the countries under the influence of your economic umbrella, so they follow your track. The second important is the political stability. Means, of course, it might be a different kind of political system, whether it is democratic, semi-democratic, authoritarian, or dictatorship. But there should be a proper set of system where the political order of the country continues. There is not bickering, there is not fragility, there is not much hue and cry. The third important factor is a military power. Of course, we can, if you try to count it, it could be number one, but economy comes number first, military power comes number two, and then the political stability comes on third. The military power is equally important. No country in the world had become a superpower without its military strength. Whether we talk about the 19th century of Britain, or 20th century of America, or 21st century is still to be determined. But military plays a very important role. And in terms of military, what do we see? That still America is number one. Russia used to be parallel to America, or number two, but it slided down because of its economic strength. But still it has a military ability. But China, in terms of a military power, is gaining ground. It has modernizing its forces of all three categories, whether it is Navy, air base, missile system, new equipments, army, all are getting modernization in China. But still, it is not parallel to American military power. One of the experts believe that we can call a superpower which has an ability to strike at any country. Any country means if there is any conflict and any problem, and that country has the ability to go for offensive venture, and that ability is still with America, not with China. Means China, if it attacks on any particular country, it has a certain fallouts and spillover effect. So that has not been seen. Encroachment, infringement has been done by China, but at large extent, wholehearted attack on particular country and acceptance of the attack by other countries has not been endorsed. So that is how we have certain reservations. So in military terms, what do we see? That China is still lagging behind. China is not as powerful as America is. And I think time has to come for to declare America to China as a militarily as powerful as America. Fourth component of a superpower is a knowledge power, which is equally important. We cannot ignore it. And that is how America, after the First World War, especially after the Second World War, till the end of the Cold War, or till today, was the only country which has gained grounds of a superpower through a knowledge power. And knowledge power is so huge. If anything goes wrong, if you try to understand what is the knowledge power, most of the think tanks are located in America. Many of the universities are working day and night to identify the problems of the world, whether the problem pertains to African countries or Asian countries or any other countries. They have the expertise to identify what is the problem, what is the ills, and where the problem lies, and what could be the solutions. You can take the example when Indian Parliament was being attacked, and the media of India explored the comments for Western countries, means America, and they got the views. Okay, these are the reasons and these are the factors which led to this attack. Whether we can call it a intelligence system which is very powerful in these countries, but their think tank, their knowledge base, the language of English and all, I think, set up America as a unparalleled knowledge power in the world, and that is how it was unilateral power for many years. So the question comes into mind, does China have this ability? Does China have this ability to become a superpower when it does not have at least two major components of being a superpower? It does not have a knowledge power, it does not have equal military ability, and to a large extent also political stability in China is a dictatorial. If anything goes wrong, whether it was Galwan conflict or before that, most of the factors are not known to the Chinese people. So they are silent because of the dictatorial regimes. Communist regime is completely blind, means it is a blind regimes. There is no freedom of expression. People cannot raise their voice against the government. So there is anger, there is frustrations. So that may lead to any kind of political instability, despite being there are 2-3 major areas of concern in China, like Tibetan uprising, Uyghur uprising, and a few others differences between the periphery and center within China. So these are the factors. Let's presume first, if China becomes a superpower like America was and America is, what kind of the world would be before us? This is a major concern for the experts of the world politics, and they very almost most of them are having a very serious doubt about the protections and dignity of the humanity will remain intact, because it is a blind system. It is a completely illiberal system where we cannot identify the next move of China. What would be China doing if the crisis comes into? The most glaring example of this thought is about epidemic of 2019, that we call it corona epidemic, which originated from the province of China, which is called Wuhan, and then after it spread to each and every corner of the world. In the last 2 years, the world is under this crisis, reeling under this crisis, facing the brunt. So, what to do about it? And the fact, when it was identified that this is an epidemic, this is going to spread throughout the world, China did not stop its airways, air flights from Wuhan to many parts of the world. It did stop within China. Internal flight from Wuhan to other cities of China were being stopped, but international flights were not being stalled, and that is how it led to a spread of the virus. It went to Italy, France, Germany, which were badly affected. America was massively affected, and later on India and many African countries felt the brunt. So this is a kind of scenario when we can presume if this is understanding of China, if it goes on and becomes a dictator, dictator means terms and rules are being followed from the dictates of the Chinese communist leader, then what will happen to the world? If anything goes wrong, there is nothing to checkmate it, nothing to identify the solution of the problem. So this is one example. The second example, when we are talking about the green world order, where China is playing a major role because China is currently the largest pollutant of black energy, and it talks big. It talks big means internally it is trying to project itself as a leading player of generating green energy. But wherever China is trading, wherever Chinese business are flowing, in that area China is using massively the black energy, coal and oil and petrol and diesel and gas. There is no place for green energy. So it has a very different charter. It has a very different roots. Internally, it wants to protect itself to be a good, healthy, and safe. On the other hand, wherever China moves out, it does not care for other communities and areas equally safe and protected. So that is going to be troublesome for the world. The second important changes would be China is in conflict with the many countries. It is not only in conflict with its Asian countries, where it shares the boundary overseas, South China Sea, the countries which are on the other parts of the South China Sea, where China is trying to dictate the terms. And in 2017, when there was sea conflict related to certain parts with Brunei, then it overtly said we do not follow the international law of seas. So if a powerful country, the superpower, does not create or lay out an order and creates a disorder by itself, then definitely it is going to be a problem for the world. So what kind of new order would be when disorder is being created by the leading power? So this is one major factor. Another important is China's One Belt Road initiative. It looks nice, it looks very good. Almost 2/3 of the world are being connected by the China's One Belt Road scheme. But the truth becomes larger when we see the scheming where it is in the first phase it is economic, but in the second phase it becomes militarily. The military schemes are being scaled up after the economic layout. So the basic intention of China is not to connect the world through economic zones, but to hegemonize these areas, whether it is African countries, our Southeast Asia, or Middle East, or South Asia, it is trying to, I think, manipulate and colonize this area. There are many examples. Gadar Port in Pakistan is one example, because we have seen Pakistan is almost a feather of Chinese alliance. It toes the lines of China. But there also, over a period of time, the Chinese engineers and PLA are working there, and they are dictating terms. So local people of Pakistan, where the Gadar port is located, are frustrated, and they are revolting against the Chinese scheme. Same thing happened in Malaysia, and the Malaysian president has called China as a new imperialist. The same disagreement and frustrations are exposed in African countries. So this is a kind of scenario which we are I think watching through the China, if China becomes a superpower. Now the second important, China might be the most important power in the coming years, but there will be check and balance, and that check and balance would be through the middle power. So in the world scenario so far, the middle powers had not been acknowledged, and it was not there to play a major role. It was America only, and American alliance system, where European countries were playing a supporting role, like supporting actor which plays in movies. So it was like that. But in the last 10 to 15 years, what do we see in the world politics? That there are a handful of the countries which have become very important. And it is not bipolar, means it is not two countries, it is not one country which play important role, but these middle countries are equally important, in which Germany, India, Japan, South Africa, France, they have emerged as a middle countries. But in any power or any system which emerge in the world cannot ignore these 5-6 countries in the world politics. So if they are all together and sharing their concerns, and they are in one group, voicing their in one tone, that would be, I think, will be difficult for any power, whether it is China, to ignore them. And that is how we see a trend. After this epidemic, most of the countries thought it that China was to large extent responsible of a loose behavior, and that is how it became more deadly. So we need to club together and move against China. So Quad has been made with the collaboration of the 4 countries, India, America, Japan and Australia, and many other European countries are part of this Quad, overtly or covertly. So there is a system which is emerging in the world politics, where anti-China sentiments are gaining grounds to large extent. China is a power, there is no doubt about it. It has set its target 2037 to become economically and militarily the #1 power of the world, escaping America. But at the same time, anti-China alliances which are gaining ground, and India is one of them, playing a very important role. America is on the lead, there is no doubt about it, is going to, I think, halt the China to be a superpower. So let's see, it is a new world order. This is not very clear. It has not been decided, but it is in flux. Times and events will shape the new world order, and who will be on the top is to be decided still. Thank you very much.